The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome back to the Star Sport podcast. Nicola Tuthill finished in 9th position in the Wimmers hammer throw at her first ever European Championships in the past few days. The 20-year-old from Kilbrittain joins us on the podcast today, fresh off the plane, home from Rome, to chat about her achievements. Now, I'm your host, Dylan Mangan, and I'm joined by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy today. We're also looking ahead to a huge doubleheader for Cork's senior men's hurlers and footballers. So lots going on. And as always, the Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose credit union, choose local, choose community. Now, Kieran, let's start with Cork and a big weekend ahead. Like I said, for both the footballers and the hurlers, there's a doubleheader this Saturday in Tullamore. At 3 p.m, the footballers face Tyrone in the All-Ireland Football Championship, while the hurlers are in a preliminary quarter-final a couple of hours later. So, big games for both teams.
Yeah, 100%. And just before we talk about that doubleheader, quick mention for the Cork ladies footballers, Dylan. They're also in action on Saturday. They're playing Galway in MTU, Bishopstown. It's a 1 p.m. throw-in. And if the Cork ladies can beat Galway, they'll top their group and go straight through to home All-Ireland quarter-final. So the Cork ladies had a massive win against Laois last weekend. So hopefully they'll get the job done. And hopefully it'll be a super Saturday for all Cork teams. So like you said, the Cork footballers are first up against Tyrone at 3 o'clock, and the Cork hurlers are 5:15 against Offaly, and both games are on GAA Go. So I suppose looking at the footballers first, Dylan, it's this is such a great opportunity for John Cleary's team to back up the win against Donegal and finish top of this group. Cork have beaten both Clare and Donegal in the last few weeks, so they have a 100% record. They top the group right now, but the way things could work out, by the end of the weekend, Cork could be in 3rd place and facing into an away preliminary quarter-final, which would be far from ideal. Cork's destiny is in their own hands. A winner or draw against Tyrone, and they will finish top. And I think it's a big test for this team, but it's almost the next step that they have to take. We've seen them win away to Clare. We've seen them beat Donegal at home. Now that expectation is rising a small bit, can this Cork team meet that expectation?
Yeah, I was going to say the same. Like we keep saying on the podcast, and you've been writing for years probably now at this stage, that Cork need to prove they can do it kind of in two situations: one against the big sides, and two on the big occasions. And last week was a big side in Donegal, and it was a big occasion down in Parky Ring. But this week is probably, in the grand scheme of things, a bigger occasion against another good Division 1 side in Tyrone. So how do you see Cork getting on this weekend? Do you think that they can back up that performance against Donegal?
I think they can. And I think if you look at their body of work over the last couple of weeks, and John Cleary made mention of it after the Donegal game, it's just 1 defeat in 8 games, and that 1 defeat came against Kerry. Okay, granted, they played a lot of Division 2 teams and a few Division 3 teams in that, but you have to start somewhere. So that's a very solid platform, having that kind of momentum off a very solid run. But now, after beating a team like Donegal, it would be huge for the self-belief and the confidence of this Cork team if they can back that up against a team like Tyrone. It's not going to be easy. It never is against the Ulster teams. But the carrot of a direct route to the All-Ireland quarter-final is there for John Cleary's men. And they'd also get an extra week break. So they'd have 2 weeks off before the All-Ireland quarter-final. So like there's real worth to winning or avoiding defeat on Saturday. And Cork need to be wary of this Tyrone team because they've been thereabouts the last couple of years. And it's been interesting. I was looking at some of their last few results, Dylan, and they haven't conceded a goal in their last 3 championship games. Whereas key to Cork's win against Donegal was Cork scored 3 goals against Donegal and could have scored a few more. So how Cork get on it, let's say, in the goal scoring stakes will be quite interesting, because Cork only kicked 9 points against Donegal, and it was goals that got them over the line in the end. Whereas this Tyrone team, like I said, they haven't been conceding goals. So that's going to be interesting to see where, if Cork do get their goal chances, do they have that ruthlessness and clinical finishing to take them? Because we need to see a ruthless Cork if they want to go further into the championship this year.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up goals, because on last week's podcast, Sean Holland and I were talking about how Cork were one of the highest goal scoring teams in the championship, but also one of the teams that conceded the fewest goals. Tyrone scored 3 goals against Clare last time out as well. So it is a game, like, goals are obviously very important in any game, but it does seem like if one team can take 1 or 2 of those chances, that might be the difference for either Cork or Tyrone at the weekend. Um, just finally as well, a lot's been made of the kind of structure of the All-Ireland Football Championship with the round robin and 3 teams going through. A lot of people saying the jeopardy is kind of gone, and there's a lot of games that have to be played just to eliminate one team from each group. But John Hayes writes in his column in this week's Southern Star that Cork will be determined to top the group and take the path of least resistance to Croke Park. And you mentioned it briefly earlier as well, but how important is that, like, getting that extra little bit of rest, avoiding a potential game against Dublin or Kerry quite early on in the championship as well?
I think to go the direct route is obviously the best route, because it gets you from A to B faster. And like I said earlier, Dylan, too, there's that bonus of that extra week's rest, because Cork were coming off the back of 3 games in over 5 weekends. So it worked out quite well for Cork this year, as in played Clare, rest, played Donegal, rest, now played Tyrone, and you hope beat Tyrone, rest, All-Ireland quarter-final. Otherwise, Cork will be going straight into preliminary quarter-final away from home, because if results play out in the Donegal-Clare game, and we'll expect Donegal to win that, and if Tyrone also win, that means it's an away game. And if it's against one of the real genuine All-Ireland contenders, like, that's going to be a big ask for Cork. So they want to make life as easy as they possibly can, and to do that, beat Tyrone on Saturday, get that direct route in an All-Ireland quarter-final like Cork were last year, and then just wait to see who comes through.
Yeah, absolutely. So that game is on GAA Go, so it will be viewable, which is a nice change from the last game against Donegal. But like we said earlier, it's not the only game on in Tullamore on Saturday. The hurlers are also out in action. They're playing Offaly in the preliminary quarterfinal in the All-Ireland Hurling Championship. And not to get completely ahead of myself here now, Kieran, but I'm jumping completely on the Cork hurling bandwagon. A win here sets up quarterfinal against Donegal, against Dublin, which would set up a semi-final against Limerick. Cork haven't been in a semi-final since 2018. Is this the year where they finally get to at least that stage?
In the Offaly listeners tuning into the podcast now, they're shaking their fist at you, Dylan. You're right, not the Offaly hurlers this weekend. But I can totally see where you're coming from, because Cork will be expected to beat Offaly this weekend, and then that'll set up a Cork-Dublin game the weekend after in the quarterfinal. And you would back Cork to win that game as well. And all of a sudden, then you have a huge mouth-watering game, Cork and Limerick in Croke Park. And it's only a couple of weeks ago that Cork beat Limerick in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. But we can't get too far ahead of ourselves. And I know Pat Ryan and the Cork colours will be keeping their feet in the ground, because they'll be wary of this Offaly challenge on Saturday. But going on the last couple of games, you think Cork should have more than enough to take care of Offaly. And then it's kind of one game at a time. And what Cork can do before, hopefully, they get to the All-Ireland semi-final is use these games to build momentum. Get a good win, a good performance under the belt against Offaly. Go into the Dublin game, then do likewise. So all of a sudden, then you're coming into a game against Limerick with momentum behind you, form, good performances, and then it's a Limerick team that will have been resting for the last couple of weeks. But like, I know this is the conversation hopefully we'll be having in a few weeks, but what's the best place to be, to have the momentum of games or have those few weeks rest? But to get there, Cork need to look after Offaly this Saturday evening, and I think they will, because we saw enough in those last 2 games in Munster to suggest that this is a Cork team moving in the right direction, and they just need to continue that forward momentum on Saturday evening.
Yeah, how much do you think the double header side of things will affect both teams, like both the footballers and the hurlers in the weekend? Because on last week's podcast, Sean and I were talking about how um the footballers could benefit from kind of the extra support that would be heading up to Offaly um for the hurling game. Like there'd be maybe more people there, more Cork people there, to cheer them on. But if Cork get a good result against Tyrone, then everybody will be in top form going into the evening game then as well. So that could be beneficial to the hurlers as well. Do you think?
Yeah, the Cork hurlers, they're well used to playing in front of full houses. Look at the attendances in the Munster Championship so far this year. Like I think between the wins against Limerick and Tipperary in Cork's last two games, I think there was over 85,000 combined at those two games, which is a phenomenal number. So the Cork hurlers, the Cork hurling fans alone would have packed out O'Connor Park on Saturday evening. So we have that double header. That means it'll be a full house for the footballers too. And I think that's great as well, because we saw in Páirc Uí Rinn the last day against Donegal, there was over 7,000 fans there, the majority from Cork, and it's just created a really good atmosphere. So we're going to have a packed O'Connor Park in Tullamore on Saturday. Two Cork teams playing. Touch wood, we'll have two Cork wins. So it could be a really great day to be a Cork GA fan if you manage to get a ticket to the games on Saturday. But yeah, just having that full house, I think, can only help both teams, because you just have that kind of that roar behind you, that you know that the fans are there. And we've a piece with Mark Collins in Thursday Southern Star where Sean Holland has chatted to him about the game coming up, and Mark knows, played football for Cork for 10 years, that it's just that the hurlers get the bigger numbers at games. So hopefully, like Mark says, the more this Cork team wins, the more Cork fans will get behind them, the bigger numbers we get, because it really does make a difference. It can't be the 16th man.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on. The sport in West Cork has been coming thick and fast, Kieran. Before we go to Nicola Tuthill, maybe just a quick mention for Phil Healy, who is racing tonight in a European Championships final in the 4x400 women's relay. And for an Irish athletics team that had only one gold medal, they now have three, or a gold medal in three competitions, let's say. And there is a real chance here that Phil Healy could get her hands on one this evening as well.
Yeah, that would be absolutely phenomenal. If our listeners are listening to this podcast on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, you would know the result of Wednesday night's 4x400 meter women's relay final at the Europeans. And touch wood, and my fingers and toes and all crossed that Phil can get her hands on a medal on the European stage, because she deserves this so much. And I know it's not saying, oh, because she deserves it, she should get it, but Phil has been a trailblazer for Irish women sprinting for the best part of a decade. This is her 5th consecutive European Championships. She has given so much for the sport. Before Rashida Adeleke came along the scene, or Charlene Maudsley and Sophie Becker, Phil was the Irish women's sprinter who was carrying the torch. So I think to see her still here at this stage of her career, and she's only 29. You know, she's been performing, like her first Europeans was back in, I think it was 2014. So here we are 10 years on, and she's still young and she's still performing. Her split in the heat on Tuesday, when the Irish women's team qualified for the final, was her fastest ever relay split. I think it was 51.29. So that just shows where Phil is at right now. So I've always been a big Phil Healy fan. So I'm just hoping that they will get the job done on Wednesday night, and we'll all be celebrating and toasting Phil's success, because I really do think she deserves this.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And just as well, I said that she has a chance of a gold medal. She does have a chance of a gold medal, but the Irish team probably are in the top three teams in the final, alongside Holland and probably Poland as well. So there's a huge chance for, at the very least, a podium, all things going well. So I don't want to jinx it, but we'll find out later on. Fingers crossed, as Kieran said. Now, Kieran, we'll move on to Nicola Tuthill now, and what's left to say about this woman? She's only 20 years old. She's just recently broken her personal best, thrown, over 70 meters. She was in the European Championships senior final at the weekend as well, or in the recent few days. Just some athlete.
Oh, it's incredible. It's just the West Cork sport is the gift that keeps on giving. And we've said that on this podcast for years and years. So Nicola Tuthill, she's one of the real rising stars of Irish athletics. She burst on the scene back in 2020 when she was just 16, Dylan, and she won the Irish Senior Women's Hammer title with a throw of over 60 metres. And it was her first time throwing over 60 metres. So she was Irish Senior Women's Champion at just 16. And since then, you've just seen this constant improvement and this constant upward trajectory in Nicola's career. And it's just been brilliant to watch. And kind of, I've been chatting to Nicola since, I suppose, 2020. So what now? This is 5 years and just watching her progress and develop. And it's just been one of those West Cork success sports stories. And the exciting thing is that she's only 20 and there's so much more to come. In last week's Star, I was talking to her throws coach, Killian Barry, and he was filling me in that for in the women's hammer, that an athlete usually probably throws their PB when they're late 20s or maybe early 30s. And here's Nicola, just 20, and she's like her PB set just in the last month was 70.32. So she's already at this level. So if she can just keep doing what she's doing, she's only going to get better and better and better. And you could see from the European Championships, all of a sudden now there's a more of a spotlight on Nicola Tuthill. The secret is out. She's been one of the rising stars here in West Cork sport and Irish athletics. But now I think the general public is starting to learn a lot more about Nicola Tuthill and about how and the family farm in Kilbrittain, that their father Norman built that homemade throwing circle and cage, and he got fishing net from Skull to finish it, and how her mom goes out down the field to pick up the hammers after Nicola throws them. It's just a really, really brilliant sports story. So to see her do what she did in Rome the weekend, where she qualified on Sunday for the women's hammer final, that was on Monday, and she finished 9th overall. So to come away with a top 10 finish in her first senior Europeans, again, it just shows the progression that she's on, and the hope is that she'll keep doing what she's doing and she'll keep kind of showing this improvement that she has, because it really is the start of something. Nicola, have you had a chance to wrap your head around what you've achieved over the last couple of days at the European Championships?
It's been all go since, but yeah, no, I'm delighted to make a final. Was such an amazing experience, and just being out there with the top athletes in Europe, it was just really nice to be able to go out and compete, and it was such an enjoyable experience.
Before we go more in depth about your performances in Rome in the last couple of days, just want to take you back to in the last month when you set your new PB. You broke that 70-meter barrier for the first time over in Slovakia with a 70.32. Can you explain to us the importance of breaking that 70-meter barrier for the first time?
I think the 70-meter barrier that's a really, really big milestone for me. And breaking it for the first time, it was really good, and I kind of needed to get to Europeans. I had to throw that 69, so to be able to push it out once I hit that 69 and be able to push it out over 70, it was really important for me just to be able to do it, and it kind of helps just because I'd put so much time in during the winter, and it was nice to see it in competition.
This is something that the two of us have spoken about before. I remember you got a West Cork Sports Sam award at the tail end of last year, and you're already talking about trying to break that 70-meter barrier, and I think your PB at the time is 67.85. So we've seen your progression so far this year. Now you've gone from 67.85 to over 70. So for yourself, it probably vindicates all that hard work and all the training that you're putting in.
Definitely, yeah. No, I had a really, really strong winter, and I had a good few training blocks put in, and it's nice for it to be able to show, and it came out, and I was really happy to be able to perform. Yeah.
And is there a psychological aspect to this as well, breaking 70 for the first time?
I think in ways, yes, because it gives you that little boost of confidence that you're upping it, and that I guess you're getting closer to, like, for breaking that 70 now, it's given me so many more opportunities in terms of competing abroad internationally, like against senior athletes and stuff. So I think it was a nice confidence boost, and it's nice to be able to be performing close to it again recently.
So let's jump straight to the women's hammer qualifying on Sunday in Rome. You came so close to breaking 70 again. I think it was 69.85 in the qualifying group, and that saw you through to Monday's final. So talk to me about the experience of walking out of that stadium in Rome on Sunday, kind of competing against athletes that you probably looked up to over the years, and you just looked at home on the big stage, Nicola.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I was delighted to be getting so close to that 70 meters. In qualifying, I think you only had 3 throws, so it was a case of go out and straight into it and see what you could do. And being even in the call room against the girls I'd watched on the TV for years, it was really nice just to be sitting there myself competing against them and be able to go out and perform close to my best. It really meant a lot.
Like you said there, you get 3 throws. What's the pressure like? So, because you know that you need to have like at least one very good throw in that. How does that affect your preparation, even when you're in the circle about to kind of go into your routine for the throw, to know that you have to nail one of the 3?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely pressure, but it's the same for everyone. And it is like, it's always been that way for major champs in qualifying. You only get your 3 throws, and that's just a part of it. And yeah, no, it is. It's good, but I think for me, to be able to get really close to my best, it was also just give me that bit more confidence again that I was able to bring it out at the big stage. But yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, no, good experience.
When you saw that you qualified in and got through to the final, guaranteed a top 12 finish at your first senior Europeans, what was that like on Sunday evening, Sunday night going into Monday? How are you feeling?
Really good. Yeah, no, that was a really nerve-wracking hour for qualification Group B because they were after us. So I was sitting in the stadium nervously watching. But once I found out I got in, it was just really good. And I was so happy, and just kind of straight away turned my focus again to going back, getting refueling, recovering, and getting ready for the next day again.
Talk to us too about what happens in between the days. Let's say when you finished up on Sunday with your qualifying to the final on Monday, how do you prepare then for your first European final?
For me, I just I rang my coach, and then I kind of just went back and refueled and just took a minute just to process it all, and then just tried to not get too nervous or anything, just take my mind off it for a few hours. I went, and then yeah, then the next day just kind of building up into it again.
And then the European final itself on Monday night. It was a big night for Irish athletics. You were thrown the same time that the women's 400-meter final was happening, I think, with Rashida Adeleke and Sinead Maudsley. So there was a big Irish crowd there. Could you feel the Irish fans in the stadium?
Definitely, I know there was such an Irish presence, and it just makes it like all the cheering. It's just so nice, and just to see all the Irish people out there supporting, it just makes it so much greater, I guess, just to have so many people backing you. And it was just it's like unbelievable. The stadium was just so loud and everyone cheering. It just made it so much better.
Your best throw tonight was 69.09, and that was good enough for a 9th place finish, which was incredible. A top 10 finish in your first senior Europeans. What are the big learnings that you took away from the final on Monday night?
I think just the experience of it all in general. Like, it's something, I guess, at a senior level, I'd never done that before. So it was just to be able to go out and compete and be at over the 69 meters again really meant a lot. And of course, like, I'm a very competitive person, so only being that few centimeters behind 8th, which would have given me another few throws, I was only dying to get there and get those few throws and try push the distance out towards that 70 again. But no, just I've learned so much and gained so much experience from being out there, and yeah, no, I'll take it as good learnings.
You probably can't wait to get back in action again. So what is the plan? When's the next competition?
I'm competing in Madrid now, in just over a week's time, I think. So back to training now, and then I'll get out and compete again.
And you know this question's going to come, Nicola, because it's been in the background for the last couple of weeks, but the Olympics in Paris, it is almost a possibility at this stage if the stars can align over the next couple of weeks before the qualification cut-off point. So are you starting to think about the possibility of qualifying, or what's your thoughts towards it?
I think every athlete's end goal is always going to be the Olympics. I am very young, like I'm only 20, but I'll keep throwing and keep training at my best and see what I can do. But of course it would be amazing, but I'll just have to keep training and keep competing and keep going and see.
And keep doing what you're doing, because you're putting the Irish women's hammer on everyone's talking about it. You can see it even on social media this week, and there was such interest in you, Nicola, and your achievements over there. Are you aware that there's a wider audience now after becoming aware of you and what you're doing from your exploits in Rome, and how good is that for the sport as well?
It's so good for the sport. I think there's been so many good performances out there. Like, we saw, 2 goals, a silver from the other girls, and like so many like unbelievable performances, and just the support from everyone, whether they're out there in the stadium or back home here. It's amazing just to see so many people backing everyone, and it's really nice. Yeah.
And how was it like to be part of an Irish team? Like we said, it's been a medal rush in the last couple of days, from the 4x4 mixed to the Ciara McGean with her superb gold, and Rashida on Monday night with her silver. How was it like to be part of that team environment?
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah, I know, it was such a good buzz, even around the hotel. Like, before you compete, you can't really go down to the stadium because it was so warm over there. So everyone would be around the hotel and they'd be watching it and checking results and rooting for everyone, which was just so nice to see and so nice to be a part of.
And how's your dad Norman coping with his newfound fame? Because everyone's talking about this homemade throwing cage and the family farm with the throwing circle and the fishing nets from Skull. So he must be very happy with his work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I have so many people backing me. Like my dad, of course, putting up the cage, and my mom coming out with me training anytime that I'm home, and my coaches Killian and Roland, they've put up so many programs for me, and I wouldn't be where I am without them. And even up in college, the Adastra Academy and UCD are just so supportive and help me with anything that they can. And of course, Athletics Ireland and the Jerry Kieran Foundation with the funding and stuff. I just have so many people rooting for me, and it just makes it that bit easier for me to go out and perform.
Oh, fantastic. Been great to see you in action the last couple of days, and continued success this month. And we keep our fingers crossed that everything goes well for you.
Thank you very much.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Welcome back to the Star Sport podcast, and as always, this Thursday the Southern Star will be in shops across West Cork and online. And Kieran, what can people look forward to in this week's edition?
So it's a 28-pager, one of our biggest of the year, Dylan. We have an 8-page Skeena Skull special. The West Cork Skeena Skull finals were held in Clonakilty recently, so we have all the match reports, all the goal scorers, all the team pictures, so it's well worth checking out for that. It's a keepsake for any young fella or young girl from the West Cork Skeena Skull finals who are involved. This is one to add to your collection. As well as that, it's packed. Obviously, we've all the GA covered intercounty wise, but we also take a closer look at the Junior B hurling and football championships. So Goleen are through to the County Junior B football semi-finals, as are Clonagale. So we've reaction reports from those games. Garnish and Wintavara both bowed out. And just a quick word on the Garnish game. If you just bear with me for a second, Dylan. They were playing St. Catherine's on Tuesday night. After 19 minutes, they were 5-2 to no score down. So they were 17 points down. And they rallied and brought it back to 3 points at the end, but they just came up short. So almost an incredible comeback there, but Garnish footballer bowed out. Turning to soccer for a minute, we've reaction from Conor Horan. He's a new role with Barnsley. He's gone back to his former club in kind of this hybrid player-coach role. Also, Drina Rangers signed off their West Cork League season with a win against Clonakilty Soccer Club in the Garrett O'Driscoll Premier Division Cup final. So we have a report and reaction from that. Martin Walsh has a very interesting piece about the West Cork Rally, asking will they keep the same 3-day format for 2025. A shout out to the West Cork Kennedy Cup team who are in action this week. They're guaranteed a top 8 finished. They won all their games in the group stages on Monday and Tuesday. So again, best of luck to them this week, and hopefully they can go as far as they can. And sticking with athletics for a second, we mentioned Phil Healy and Nicola Tuthill earlier on in the podcast. In Thursday Star, we have a big interview with Joan Healy, who's the older sister of Phil. And Joan Healy has had to hang up her spikes. She's retired from athletics after her latest injury. And Joan has been on this podcast several times over the last couple of years. We've always chatted her story in the Southern Star as well. But it's one injury too many. She had planned to bow out from athletics in a way this summer, and she wanted to go out on her own terms, but that's been ripped from her grasp. She's had to call it a day earlier than she would have hoped. So it's a very open and honest interview by Joan where she chats about this latest injury and how I suppose that running has been her identity for a long time now. She's been at this 2 decades, and how it's important to fill the void after running. So I think that's worth to read, because that shows the other side of sport. Like it's what Phil and Nicola are doing is incredible, and what Joan did for so long has been incredible too. But it just shows that sometimes sport, it's not all about finals and medals. There is a tougher side to it too, and Joan's been very open and honest in this. So I think that's an interview that's well worth checking out on Thursday.
Yeah, so loads in there as always. We also have all the full local election results from across West Cork with analysis and candidate reactions as well. So if you tuned into our live blog at the weekend, be sure to pick up a copy of this week's paper to get all of that as well. As always, if you're further afield or you can't make it to the shops, you can subscribe on subscribe.southernstar.ie. Get the Southern Star e-paper on your laptop, tablet or phone. So just head, like I said, to subscribe.southernstar.ie, enter your details and you'll get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week. As always, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. If you've enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll be back again next week. Thanks for listening.